Hello, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Annie, and this is my creative detour. I hope you've all had a great week, and we're into a new month of April, which is super exciting. And I'm going to be joining in on the challenge for the month called #ABC April 2026, and it's ran by Margaret over at 7 Plaza and Toni at Crafty by Toni. So I will have their links below for you to find out about the challenge, and for you to also check out the hashtag to look at all of the other people that are participating in the challenge. Now, I'm working on the letter B today, and I decided that I was going to use book pages, and I'm going to pull out book pages out of a book that I've got about herbs, because the paper is just what I want. It's a nice colour. It's not too thick, but it's not thin, and it's not glossy. It's a matte paper. I want to be able to stamp on it and emboss on it, and I also want to fold it up. So I'm going to be using Bookpage out of this book, and I'm going to be creating Bellybands and bookmarks out of Bookpage, and I'm going to be stamping on things that start with B. So we're going to be doing birds and bees and butterflies and bugs, things like that. And I thought that I would show you a few steps along the way in this video, because this isn't a project that you can just go through every step all at one time. Because I'm using different mixed media, I've got to let it dry in between. So I've got things pre-made at different stages, and I'll step you through it. So let's get started. I'll set up the desk and show you all the materials. Okay, now I have pre-cut a piece of cardstock, and I think that this is, it's not thick, but it's not thin. I think it's 170 GSM. I'm not sure what that is in pounds. It's got some flexibility to it, and I'm going to put the paper on it. I'm going to use the book page here to cover this, but I'm also going to make some belly bands. So you can see here I have a pre-made belly band ready to go, and I'll show you how I'm going to make that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the page out of my book. I think you'll be able to hear all the birds in the background. I've got the door open because it's drizzly today and it's still quite humid, but it's not hot enough to put the air conditioner on. So I've got the glass doors open, and the birds are loving the little bit of a rain shower. So I'm just taking out a page out of the book, and I have one here as well. So what I'm going to do is we'll cover this one first so that we can get it started. Now all I'm going to do with this is, so leftover scrap cardstock. Now I'll tell you the measurement that I've got. I've got 2 inches, which is 5 centimeters, and I've got 7 1/4, which is 18.3 centimeters. And I'm just going to glue that with glue stick onto a piece of pulled out book page. So you use whatever book page that you want to use, and just use some scrap. This was an offcut out of my white cardstock scrap pile, and I'm just going to glue that in there like that. You can see it's not all straight, doesn't need to be all perfect, and I'll burnish that down, and I'm just going to cut the corners out of that. Just on a tiny little bit of a mitre. Yes, I'm super excited about joining in on the ABC challenge. I did a few letters last year and thought, oh, I'd like to do it this year. Now you can see that I am just gluing this down, and I'm putting a generous amount of glue on it, and I'm covering that piece of cardstock with book page. There we go, nice and simple. I'm going to put that underneath my mat so that it completely dries. I'm not going to try and speed up the process, because if you try and heat it with your heat gun with the glue stick, it can bubble the glue, and I want it to stay flat. So I have made some on a previous day and let them dry overnight. And I will show you that I have one here, pre-made, all dry, ready to go. Now, our belly band. So what I'm going to do with my belly band is I think I'm going to just take it to the edge of where there is some text so that I don't have a big white piece on it. And I'm going to lightly score it at 1 3/4 inches, which is 4.5 centimeters. And I'm going to fold that over, and then I'm going to fold it over again. So nice and simple. And I'll put a little mark just here where I've folded it over, and I'm going to cut that excess off. And then I'm going to put glue stick all over this. Let's get something out so I don't get it on my mat. And I'm going to put a good layer of glue all over it, everywhere. And I'm going to fold that shut and shut again on itself and give it a really good burnish. And I'm going to put that under my mat and I'm going to let it dry. Just make some and leave them overnight and let them dry. So here's one that I did yesterday. So there's the bookmark, and here's my belly band. And I'm not cutting the belly band down because I don't know which journal I'm going to use it in. So I'm just going to leave it the full height, and I can cut it down when I want to put it into a journal. Okay, the next step that I want to do is I want to put on some gesso. So you can see here in some previous ones that I've done that I've put some gesso on it and then let that dry. So let's do the gesso so you can see how I do it. So nice and simple, I've just got white gesso and I've got my spatula, and I'm just going to scrape it on to the book page and put the amount of coverage that I want on it. I'm going to leave some bits that I think I want to see a little bit of, and then I'm going to cover up more of what I don't want to see. And I want it to be relatively smooth. So even though it's in some places it's thick, I'm trying to get it smooth. And that's because we're going to stamp on it later. Okay, so that's good. We'll pop that to the side and let it dry. And now I'll drag up some of that off the page and use it again. And I'm just going to do the same on here. And the reason I'm putting gesso on is because I don't want the paper to be in the foreground. I want it to be pushed back into the background so that it allows the stamping to be the foreground. So there we go. That's perfect. And I just have a baby wipe. I'm going to clean my spatula. And I'll pop that to the side now. Just going to run my finger along the edge to mop up anything that I don't want. And I will let that dry now. And I'm not going to heat it with my heat gun to get it to dry. I'm just going to leave it. And once it's dry, then I will do something with it. So that's that gesso step. So here you can see, by the magic of camera, I have some that I have made. Now, because I want to stamp on this and I want to use VersaFine, the gesso can sometimes resist the VersaFine or resist the ink, and I don't want to use StazOn because I don't want it to stain all my stamps too much. So I want to use VersaFine. I like the clarity that VersaFine gives you as well, and I'm using a few detailed stamps. So what I have to do is I have to seal it because the gesso, like I said, is going to resist that VersaFine and it won't dry. The first one that I did, I forgot, and hours later, the VersaFine wasn't dry. So what I did was I then heat embossed it to get it stable. Well, once I heat embossed it, I actually preferred it with the heat embossing because I liked the shine and the texture on it, which is what we're going to do today anyway. But I still prefer it if the VersaFine dries on the surface. So I'm going to put a layer of Liquitex matte medium on. Now I've already sealed the back because we're using Bookpage and I'm going to be using some watercolour. I want it to be sealed because the watercolour is going to soak into the surface of the book page too much as well. That's the other reason why I want to seal it, because I want to use gold watercolour. So I have sealed the back already and I'm just brushing on, you can see some Liquitex matte medium, and it's quick and easy, and I'm going to let that dry as well. So let's do the other one. So unfortunately lots of prep with this one, but it does mean that you can mass make a whole heap and then go off and do something else and come back. And as you all would know, I've been doing some pre-recording because I'm away, and so it's meant that I've done this and then gone off and done some other things in between. Okay, so there we go. That's sealed on the back already. Like I said, now I've sealed the front. I'll let that dry. And let's clean our brush and pop it in the water. That gets us to this stage. And these are sealed on both sides, gesso on the front, and I'm about to do some watercolour. And you can see I've got some ready to go as well. But let's get out my Kerataki gold watercolours because they're my favourites. And I'm just going to spray my watercolour palette with some water and leave my spritzer there and mix up some watercolour gold. And I'm just going to run around the edge of it. And you can see that when I pulled out the pages, that I purposely pulled out some pages that had bees on them, if I could. Now, I'm just going to spritz that now with a bit of water to get that to move around. And I'm also going to just blot it just ever so slightly to get the excess water off. And you can see that there's the gold on it, and I will put that now to the side with the others to let it dry. Let's do the belly band. So each step is very, very quick. It's just that it's a step, so potentially you could do lots of these all in one go and then come back to them in a few hours time, or do some at night and then come back the next morning and do the next step. I'm happy to let it do its thing. And let's just drop a tiny bit more in there. What I'm spritzing it for is because I don't want the definite line on it. I want it to look like it's fluid and moving around. Okay, so you can see that the page is quite damp and it needs to just dry. And even though if you hit it with the heat gun, it would dry the surface, it might not dry the core because we've got a few layers of paper there. So I'm going to sit that to the side now and let that dry with the others, and I'll clean up, and then we're going to start actually making the bookmark and the belly band. As I said, I made some spares. So now I have a dry belly band and I have a dry bookmark, and you can see I didn't bother doing gold on the back because I'm actually going to glue this onto a backing. All right, so now we're at the fun part of stamping, and I love doing stamping. I think I've mentioned to you before that if I have an opportunity to stamp for you, I will. Now, because we're doing the letter B, I wanted to do different things. So I pulled out a All in Create bird stamp, and I also have pulled out my butterfly stamp from Stampin' Up. Now, this was retired years ago. The number is 155092 if you're wanting to try and track it down. But it's quite a good stamp and the detailing on it is fabulous. So I'm going to stamp butterflies and birds for you. I do have some others done that I'll show you at the end. I've got, like I said, I've got bugs, birds, butterflies, and bees. I've done some bees as well. So let's pull out these stamps. Now the All in Create bird one is number 901 and it's called Bird and Bee, which is very appropriate, isn't it? Okay, now I'm going to pull out a pile of magazine paper just to give it a little bit of cushioning. I'll put quite a few pages down just to soften the imprint a bit. We'll do the butterfly in a moment. We'll start with our bird. I'm just going to ink up the stamp, and I'm going to do this in 2 runs because I want to make sure that I get my embossing set. So let's get that inked up, and I'm going to put some anti-static powder onto my Bellyband, and I'm going to stand up because I find it easier with big format stamps to stand up. Well, that's not too bad. And I'm just going to hit that with some clear embossing powder, and I'll heat set that. Okay, here we're back. I did smudge that stamp a little bit, and so the background text is a little bit blurry, but I'm fine with it. It doesn't all have to be perfect. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the classic letters, and I'm going to spell out bird. So let's get bird out. Okay, now I'm just going to hit that with the powder again, and we'll stamp out the word bird. Oh, I did a bit of an overstamp there. Never mind. Adds the human element to it. And D. All right, let's put the embossing powder on that while it's nice and juicy. Okay, there's our bird, Bellyband. Now we'll set that to the side and just let it settle, and we'll move on to our butterflies. So I've got a butterfly bookmark that I'm making, and I want to stamp our butterflies fluttering across the surface of it. And I also have this stamp from All in Create, and it's called House of Butterflies, and the number is 573, and it's got a definition of the word butterfly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stamp the big stamp first, but I'll just put a bit of powder on, and I'm going to load up my butterflies, and I'm going to do it mostly down the middle. And once again, I've stood up. Now, because I've put that matte medium on, I need to try not to move the stamp. That's not too bad. And now we'll stamp on our definition of butterfly onto it and hit that with the embossing powder. And I'm just going to heat set that embossing powder. Okay, I've heat set those and I've tidied up a little bit. So let's finish these off and make them look like a bookmark and a belly band. So I'm going to do some inking because I think you've heard me say before that I love the Karatake Gold Metallic with Vintage Photo. So I'm going to ink up the items, and I'm probably going to put a little bit of the Vintage Photo Distress ink on the sides a little bit and blend it into the page. Grunge it up a bit. There we go, there's the bird belly band. And I'm going to punch the corners off this. I have a corner rounder, and I've cut a piece of craft cardstock to go on the background for the bookmark. So I'm going to cut the corners on that, and I've cut it 1/4 of an inch bigger. So I've cut that cardstock background at 2 1/4 inches, which is 5.7 centimeters, by 7 1/2 inches, which is 19 centimeters. And I'm just going to ink the edge of the bookmark. So I've got lots of bee items. I'll show you all of the ones that I've made, and we'll put one in the journal in a moment. And with a bit of art glitter glue now, I'm just going to glue that to the background and give it a really good burnish. And I'm going to put an eyelet in it actually, and a little bit of seam binding. Okay, so we've got our seam binding in. So let's have a little look at what we've got, and we'll glue one in my nature's journal because they're all of things in nature. So we have 2 finished bookmarks. So there's the one we made together, and it's got lots of gold on it, which is nice. And I like how the light hits the gold metallic, but also the clear embossing on the ink. And here's one that I made earlier of bees, and you can see that I stamped out the word bees, and then I've stamped all different bees, and I actually pulled out a page in the book that was talking about bees, and there's all little bees in the background on the page. We have our bird that we just made, the smudged one. It's a little bit smudged. And then there's one that I made the other day. I've got a bug one that I did. And you can see that I'm leaving all the length because the belly bands are going to go into different size journals. So we can just fold them and cut them down, which we'll do in a moment. And then we have our bee one of all big bees. Another letter B with butterflies. And another bee and another butterfly. So quite a few belly bands and a couple of bookmarks, but I've got all those bookmarks that I started with you that are at all different stages and that I'll be able to do at another time. But let's have a look at our journal. Now you can see that I have got our bird belly band here, and this one I stamped out bird, 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 just with my little alphabet stamps. And I have measured and folded the belly band so it's the right length. So I'm going to just adjust the height of this so that I can glue it on with you. So I'm just going to cut that down, maybe leave about 1.2 centimeters or 1/2 inch, something like that. And I'm just going to miter off the corner just a tad. So you can see just a little miter. I'll do that on each corner. And I'm going to ink up this belly band before I glue it in. Make it have a little bit more definition. After you've prepped a whole heap of these, and I think that down the track I will just prep a whole lot of these and have them in my stash. Once they're prepped, they're actually pretty quick to put together and useful to have in your stash. Be great as a mass make, wouldn't it? To just mass making a whole heap of bookmark bases. Oh, and belly band bases. There you go. How many bees are in that? A lot of alliteration going on there. All right, we'll stick this on the page in the journal. There we go, that looks good in there, doesn't it? Let me grab something to slide underneath. Alright, I'll just grab something off my desk to slide underneath it. I don't want to put anything too tight under it, but there we go. That looks lovely, doesn't it? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 belly bands with birds, bees, bugs and butterflies. And we have 2 bookmarks, one with butterflies and one with bees. So there we go. There's my ABC April 2026 letter B, and I made bookmarks, belly bands, and I decorated them with bees, butterflies, birds and bugs. Thank you so much for stopping by again today, and if you're new here, welcome. I hope you really enjoy the video and think about subscribing to the channel. If you like the project today, give me a thumbs up, that'd be wonderful. And leave a comment below, tell me which one you like the best. That would be great. And I hope you all have a wonderful time participating in the challenge. If you'd like to know about it, the links will be below for both Margaret's channel and Toni's channel, and you'll be able to find out all about the challenge. And also I'll leave the hashtag below so that you can have a look at all the other people that are participating in the month of April. All right, I hope you have a wonderful weekend making something fun and new, and I will see you all very soon with another project. Thanks again for stopping by. Bye for now.